Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to go through all things sacred geometry, understanding the deeper layers within Taoist internal alchemy magic, and we will explain it in great detail, identify what comes with the inner workings and the activation of an energetic body and the alchemy that is the result of this cultivation. Then we'll go through the different processes that are necessary, and we'll go through 2 exercises that you can experience this tangibility instantaneously today as you go through the podcast. And at the end, we do a more of a deep dive into the layers of the energetic fundamental architecture, and you get to experience it firsthand, the power of the energy and imprinting it, and what that means, the nature of sacred geometry. Enjoy the video. Brilliance, sound, action, inaction. The name that is echoing right here, right now. All is one, one is all. Simplified. Resonance. The truth. Welcome to the consciousness of the way. Divine Delectable Co-host, High Priestess Jadis.
Gotta come up with a better nickname.
Yeah, a.k.a. Judas.
Can you stop?
Welcome, friend.
Welcome, friend. It's been a while.
Frenemies. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sun Qing. Well, we're back in the hot seat again. We're back into the oneness that we call our everyday.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So, let's get down with the get down and get deeper into the nature of things. As we go on this journey and we bring more and more guests into the way stratosphere, we're coming to a realization, which we have always done. There are many different ways up the mountain. Understanding, I found it very, very compelling. Just recently coming across a specific person who was speaking on sacred geometry, and that's our bag. Understand that, everything is words, letters, numbers, symbols. But moreover, it was his describing of this sort of like low entropy, high entropy threshold, and how that would affect these energy centers that we speak of. Now, the compelling part was he speaks on something that he cannot speak on unless he experiences. This is fundamental, 101 components to inner alchemy, i.e. Qigong, inner power. And within Taoism, there is a processes that goes on when you're activating these dantians, energy fields, that these are being activated, and within each energy field is 81 chambers, and within those 81 chambers create a specific type of shape, and that's for me to know and for you to find out. And so with that, there's certain things that take place, and he was extremely descriptive of something that I'm very familiar with, that Taoists are very familiar with, that has been part of the nature of the inner alchemy, the alchemist within you, that's derived from the evoking of these dantians, the cinnabar field, the yellow cinnabar field. And for all those people that know, they know. For all these people that don't know, you'll never know. No, I'm just kidding. But understand that there's all these elements that take place, and there's certain products that take place within the chemistry that evoke elements that are undeniable, that you cannot move away from. And so, most importantly, is the upper alchemy of the upper dantian, which within Taoism is the center point of light, the activation and release of the sun, and of course the reveal of the Ryu, and of course the expression of the sacred infinite flower. Now, the elements that are within that create this metal fluidity that we speak of. So there's this threshold where you're operating in these dimensions, and then the old one where you go, Shafu, you said void of time and space. I'm like, yeah. So what's really fundamentally important to understand when you hit that fifth dimension, you go third, fourth, fifth, the nature of things change. So all of a sudden, it's no longer electromagnetic. It literally becomes resonance. And so this fundamental understanding changes everything. And so you can imagine mercury, metal, fluid. There's a resonance that comes with that. It's no longer this blending of a yin and yang processes from a duality perspective. And so that resonance would be more visualized as it starts to do this. And you will have that. There's a center of everything. And the one thing that really captivated my attention was his explanation of this, because you cannot talk about it unless you have done it or you know of it, you know it to be true. So you got my attention, my friend, because I teach people this stuff. I do it on a daily. I'm doing it right now. And so I just recently had a lucid dreaming expert on. And part of the, fundamental understanding of that was I asked him a question. I said, so what would you consider the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection? And quite frankly, in my professional opinion, having done this 30 years, it's really just a shift of a gear. Meaning that it's just one state moving into another, or one state moving back into the same. And so, as I would coin the response from Tom Campbell, the larger consciousness system will give you exactly what you need. So if you're sort of looking at it from a point where, I need the Hollywood movie version where I have to pop out of my body and oscillate and hover over it and look back and see it, that's just the beginning of something that turns into something else. Now, I'm in the same category right now of astral projection, only it's what we call within Taoism soul projection. And so we project the Shen. The Shen is the spirit. And I'm operating in all dimensions right now. Booyah. And so the simulation is this understanding that all the framework of what you consider your 3D reality is absent to my very eye. It's as if someone took whiteout or blackout, in my case, and white and black are two of the same, just so you know. It's blackout for me. That means everything falls away and then I have this incredible orchestra of vivid imagery that takes place. And then I can shift those gears and turn it into a 3D reality with Jade here, and then enter, i.e., enter the dragon. I have Latsu sitting over here in solid form, transmuted into a vivid image as dense as I see Jade right now. Furthermore, I can take from that experience, drop that veil down, and now I'm experiencing the universe as we speak. And so Shifu, you're insane. How could you possibly do all these things? You're talking to me right now. You have just blown my mind on the definition of multitasking. Well, there's this sensory perception that takes place with all these different dimensions as we're categorizing them. I would just call them gears within a moving component, and you're shifting that. It's just you're shifting your state. You will feel that pulpability. That's why the energetics are second to none within Taoism. It's so critical that you're able to activate that infrastructure. And this is another compelling thing that I found this guy very interesting, was he was speaking on stuff that is deep within our indigenous practices of internal alchemy from a Taoist perspective that have never been revealed. And we're doing it. Mm-hmm. And anyone that follows our path or is in our path will receive the ability to learn and master these skills. And I've been given a green light from my teachers. Have at it. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Taoism is not one of those things that you can get a great reference from, because anything that's out there is some bastardized Western version of what the true practice is, because it's had the eyes picked out of it, and you're not really getting the whole enchilada. And so you are able to shift. And so there's this, and always understand this, everything is your perception. Everything is your making, and your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. So there is a fundamental universal thread, which is what made it so compelling for me, because this guy spoke on the energy centers. And you cannot obtain that ooey gooey center unless you go through this functioning processes within the internal alchemy that reveals that as the inner trappings and sort of the network that you see with your eyes open or closed, and you feel as a register that it is real to you.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned sensory perception in this kind of 5D reality. Now, the three most common senses, you know, sight, hearing, and feeling, you know, the visual, audible, tangible. Do you, when you're in this other state or you drop into this other state, do you also pull your sense of smell and taste with you going through that? Or is that left in the 3D because it no longer is a necessity?
Oh, absolutely not. You enter with the five senses you're born into this realm with, and then you supercharge them to an infinite amount. And so your experience, like the experience I'm having now, is I'm literally sitting in the center of the sun, and the registered bubbling effects of that throughout my physical tissue is this like prickling and oscillating and vibrating of this energy. And by me saying that, you start to get to experience it, and you're experiencing it in the audience. Jade's experiencing it because it's happening to me right now, and I've attuned you guys to it, and it only gets stronger. And as I say, it gets stronger. What happens? It gets stronger, because that's how finally in tune we are and how that's possible. And so I'm just like, I'm churning and burning as we speak, creating this stuff, but it's also my every breath, my every action, inaction, as I spoke on earlier. And when you understand that, this is your default, or this is your reality. There is no default. The default is your reality. Your reality is the default.
Yeah. We happened to come across this Neuralink video on YouTube talking about how they're just starting human trials. And it was such a interesting idea, but interesting video. And at first you look at it and, it feels a little scary, this chip in your head that they implant, and then it basically sends a Bluetooth signal to some type of electronic device, a cell phone, a computer, a TV, your thermostat programming, whatever, and then you think it and it wants to do it. And at first, just saying that concept, it seems a little crazy, but when you really think about it, it's like we're already doing that. We're already interconnected with the quantum. We're already interconnected with each other, with energy, with the energy of every other thing that is here. We just haven't tapped into that yet and realized that, we're constantly sending and receiving. We're signals. We are our own Bluetooth to this universe and this energy and the energy centers that you talk about. And it's like just getting people to realize that is such a powerful thing.
And, people start to relate these sort of like experiences to the subtle body, the light body, the energy body, the astral body. Listen, guys, let's put it this way. If you have an imagination and you understand the foundations and you're trained in the foundations so you can evoke the chemistry, the alchemistry, you can create anything you want. Mm-hmm. But the alchemistry seems to be fundamentally, universally realized across all platforms. Because I was like having an epiphany because this guy's explaining this stuff. And I know from ancient Taoist alchemy that I teach people for over 30 years, you cannot do this if you don't have the roadmap, or moreover, your past lives come into this present reincarnation and you instantly get the information. Mm-hmm. And all of those things are possible. None is limited to. I'm a little bit spoiled because I'm using many different things, including my immortal self in this reincarnation. I'm being taught directly from the three pure ones, Lao Tzu, Jade Emperor, Ling Bao. And so Supreme Purity, Jade Purity, Highest Purity have sort of like this whole, literally like collective handing me the information. Then on top of that, I'm using all the indigenous practices that were trained to me as a priest within the two different sects of Taoism that I hold lineage in. So I have all these ancient alchemy practices so that I create a more robust, even wider net that I'm handing to the individual that wants to come on this magical mystery ride with us and obtain a level of consciousness that cannot be realized without a roadmap. Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, when I say that, I mean either you come across it from pure source that you get yourself, you come across it from training, which you would receive from Jade and I, and then you get the supercharged version where you're getting it from Jade and I, the lineages that I represent as an ordained priest, and then all the internal training that comes from pure source information directly from the very creators of this stuff that had direct communication with the whispers of the universe that created it as we know it today, the fundamental building blocks of Chinese culture and or the internal alchemy, which is really the secret sexy sauce that is what every emperor has at his side, which is his Taoist alchemist, his Taoist advisor that would give him insight into the very nature of all things. So there's a transfer. There's definitely a universal understanding. And when you understand how to access that, and so let's just start with the fundamentals of an energy center, any energy center, okay? Whether it's upper dantian, middle dantian, lower dantian, or then substrates of those dantians, which would be continually energy centers that can multiply for all intensive purposes up to 108 between the Earth and the universe, creating this humanist expression of energy, frequency, vibration, and it's the tuning fork, right? Now you need to understand that the ultimate goal is to access the magnetic fluidity, which is that incredible resonant expression. And so now, you've got the fundamentals. Shifu, how do we do it? Well, that's what I'm here for, man. Let's get down with the get down. And so now let's look at an energy center, any energy center. And there are dimensions to that energy center. And fundamentally, you want to access all of them. And each energy center within Taoism, straight out of the chute, has 81 levels. What you talk about, Willis? Yeah, 81 levels.
Now, for everyone out there who is brand new or unfamiliar with energy centers, would you parallel them to like chakras?
Yes.
A more mainstream.
Some people will talk about that as a chakra, but understand that everything from an object to an expression of a sentient being has this energy construct within it. Mm-hmm. There are no exceptions. So once you understand the fundamentals of that, now you can start playing with the cultivation, because what you want to do is magnetize that magnetic fluidity. Oh, magnetize that magnetic fluidity. But it's truly the true nature, the expression, how someone would want to express it within this new age terminology, the divine feminine. And so we've known this for thousands, tens of thousands of years within Taoism. That's why we call the Tao the mother of all things. What a coincidence. But there's fundamentally this shift that separates the electric from the magnetic, and you shift that dimensional consciousness to a resonance. So it's different. You go from duality to oneness. Does this make sense? And so now if you're able to take that oneness back to duality, wow, now we're going to have fun at the races. Fun, fun, fun till Daddy take a T-bird away. Because now you're able to shift this 3D density with magic, healing, manifestation, and it happens real time. So you're literally replicating what most people talk of. Well, you can do it outside of this 3D reality. You can get it done instantly. The second you think about it, it is materialized and manifested. Whereas here in this 3D reality, everything's slowed down, and, most of the time that's not going to happen. Well, that's your admission of failure, my friend, and that's your admission that you have not experienced it yet. So what I would say to you is, when you dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own. And so what you should gather from that fantastic insight is that you can obtain that, and it cultivates, and you cultivate it. So by nurturing and saturating this cell in this physical body, by understanding that these energy centers can all be leveled up, I've spoken of it before, understanding that you come into this world with what we call within Taoism a constitution, what we call the Qing, the pure essence of your expression, your DNA strand, your hereditary being exposed within the physical flesh. What did mommy and daddy give you? You're an expression of that. And so then your physical body will come in at, anywhere between 0 and 100% of battery life, and more depending upon your DNA makeup, your genetic expression. And then you now have an option as a Taoist. If you know a Taoist or you know of Taoist alchemy, you can level up to 100, that's right, 100%. So if you're if your dice roll and your DNA strand exhibits a constitution of 70% out of 100, you're born into this world. Well, all bets are off because your mommy and daddy happen to be Taoist priests. And so all of a sudden now we can change the whole makeup of everything that you know as the truth. Moreover, you know a Taoist and you want to get the secret source. Our specialty is second to none. The internal alchemy practices. You are the alchemist to cultivate these energies. So you saturate your physical body. You then take it from 70 to 100%, changing your whole genetic makeup. And then guess what? It gets even more interesting. You take it from 100% to 1,000% to 5,000% to 100,000%, and it's never ending. Then you intune yourself to realizing once you saturate this physical body with this magnetic fluidity, which is the life force, which everyone's identified with it, prana, chi, energy. This is what we speak of. This is from the ancients. This is the indigenous understanding, and this is the source, what we call 0-point energy within a quantum model of understanding. That is the backbone, the juice to all things, the Iki center. Didn't Little Kim have a song like that? She had some song. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. But in any case, get to the center. It was like center of the lollipop. It was pretty controversial at the time, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly watched it a couple of times. I had to make sure she was really saying what she was saying. But anyway, that's for a censored moment. In any case, you get to the center, and this is what I'm reflecting on when I come and talk to you about what was so compelling from this guy's understanding, because that's really the layers. You go into the center of all things. We speak on it. When we talk about going out, we're really going in. So, when people talk about, oh, I'm out of body, I'm looking at my physical body, that's a very sort of like infantile or a beginner-based viewpoint of the experience. Okay? And it's not a dismissal. It's just that's when you're first going to cut your teeth. You know who you are. Cut your teeth on this practices because you're not familiar enough with it. When you understand you all is one, one is all, this idea that you need to separate dissolves and you realize you go inside.
Now, would you say when we talk about these energy centers and you talk about coming into this world with 70% your constitution and wanting to amplify that, when you're looking at the energy center from the Taoist perspective, are you looking to cultivate it and add more energy? Are you looking to filter it and get rid of, say, impurities or that type of stuff? Or is it more of get it as big as it can, store as much as it can, so whenever needed, it's always endless?
Well, yeah, it's always endless when you understand past the concept that you're abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite, and that really is predicated on your belief system. So that's the first fundamental. Then you are going to store it, and from the processes of what we call chi packing within the physical tissue, you run the frequency and all the channels become regulated. And so your emotion of virtue becomes eliminated, the virtue arises, and your ascension, your replication of your divine awareness becomes sort of the expression of your 3D reality. Your personality just forms that way. You don't have to shape it, force it, manipulate it. It's part of the effect of your ascension. And so when you get deep into the center, so we have 81 levels, and you literally go 81 levels in. And what happens is you evoke these elements, and they're metal in their derivatives, and it becomes more. The more you go into, the more robust it becomes. The more profoundly robust and dense and expansive each time you go into that center. And so there's a processes that activates that. And when you understand the spiraling effect of energy, these energy centers are very tangible, and they are really vortices. They're a vortex. They're a vortex. Every single energy center is a vortex, accessing something greater. And so for all intents and purposes, that 81 levels is a great entry. But quite frankly, let's be honest, they're infinite. Mm-hmm. But let's just say, just to get a handle, because the pulpability of what I'm speaking of only grows in magnitude as you start to experience it more and more. And each level you go into, normally within Qigong training, there's a process to acquire that pulpability, where, it's easy when we talk about dantians, dan, tian, energy field, right? What most people will be familiar with is the energy. But to actually create the infrastructure of the field is a now more finite, refined mastery. Is it possible for anyone to do it? 1,000%. Are there a lot of people out there, as one of our subscribers mentioned, some spiritual pyramid scheme opportunity? That was, unfortunately, they were referring to a previous guest of mine. But hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you how to think, feel, or do. But I will say this, that you need a processes. And so that mastery is second to none. And so when I look at the Qigong training, I would say probably with great confidence, 95% of the stuff out there is gobbledygook. Shufu, what did you say? Gobbledygook. And so the proof is always in the pudding. And so at the end of this podcast, we do our exercise, and I will show you. I'm a show you guy. Remember, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, I am a show you guy. And that's what I do. And it comes in all forms. But understand this, once you start to get this architecture down, your version of reality is going to be quite different.
Now, would you say, when you talk about the 81 levels and accessing them, would you say that they're like an onion, where it's like you access one layer and then that leads you to another, and then you access another and then that leads you to another? Or are they all kind of...
Well, you go straight in.
Okay.
So you're going in to the energy center. You're not going out. And what happens is it has a reverse effect of going in, expands out.
I see.
Instead of going out to expand, to contract in.
So it's like a rock in a pond, and then and then the ripple, like a rock dropping into a pond,
and so then it ripples. Great analogy.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Jade's analogies.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've had a good one. But that rock is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's palpable.
Get it.
And I love your analogies. And so that rock is the seed. The rock is the pulpability that I speak of. And as you continue to go in, it gets denser and denser and denser. Mm-hmm. And, basically, my eyes right now are looking around. Imagine a screen, a virtual reality screen, and everywhere I look, until I shift the gear of the dimension, has got a golden, basically a golden line around it.
Glow. Halo.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really glow. It literally, it's like getting a golden marker and you outline it. Mm-hmm. And this is how I see things. And with that, it activates all this different chemistry within my upper dantian. And so by looking around, I'm literally palpating this energy. And so what I'm going to do is get the audience to experience this. And as I do this, I'm palpating the energy. But what you're going to feel in your body is this dense cultivation that I can instantly transfer and evoke in your own chemistry, because you are present. And just like Jade's looking at me right now, if I just kind of do this.
I felt it when you were just looking at
Right, right.
at the space.
And so these lenses, now let's explain this because, you know, you're going to have your mind blown with understanding the third eye, because within Taoism there's 9 eyes. Shifu, what did you just say? 9 eyes. And so this has whole different implications that are now blowing your mind. I know what you're thinking right now. I heard this here first. It's like me hearing that aliens landed on the White House front lawn. Hey, listen. Taoism has been a fundamentally closed situation.
Very much so.
For thousands of years. Now, if I wasn't given the cues from my teachers to release this, I wouldn't. But they want the world to evolve. This is part of a contribution for consciousness. For us to do that, we must all sing Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. It's a collective consciousness, guys. It's a collective consciousness, you know what I'm saying? And just that bubbling effect, Jade and I are passing that energy back and forth. We're generating it. We're generating it. That's what's taking place. You know, all of the above. This is what happens. And so the beautiful part is that anything is possible. And so, you know, and so I get like these trails. So I'll look at an object and it literally forms this outline in gold. And then it has this layered, like fairy dust effect that goes over the top of it. And I kind of move around. And every object I look at, it starts to infuse and imprint the energy. And this is what I found most compelling about this guy's conversation, was he explained the imprinting part, which unless you done, if you ain't done it, you can't speak on it. You know what I'm saying? And so the imprinting is critical. And you can take anything, an object, a life force that is representative of a human being, and you can imprint this stuff, and you will feel the difference instantaneously. If you can't see it with your eyes, I can see it with my eyes, you will feel the presence of this density of energy that has been infused into the place, person, or thing. And this comes back to my dear friend Tom Campbell, who said, your intention creates the variability of the entropy level. And so all of a sudden it's a crapshoot of probabilities, because everything's operating at once. Where are you going to get the crapshoot? You're going to put your hand in a hat full of assholes and pull out an asshole. Or you're going to change that probability and create whatever it is that you want. This is the same thing. When you infuse something, you can change the whole construct of that place, person, or thing. Never to be the same. And that's why you cast magic, manifestation, or healing. And there's infrastructure, and there's imprinting. And this guy was like, you know, in tuning with me. And it's like, you're picking up what I'm putting down. That's right. That's what you're saying, Willis. It was so compelling, because, of course, my teacher, Latsu, drew me to this guy. He said, go and check this guy. And I'm like, I only check out whatever you tell me to. I'm a blank slate when it comes to this stuff. I don't sit down and want to like embrace this sort of like need to be the next Bruce Lee or the Dalai Lama or Jesus Christ or any of these things, even though I touch on all these variable sensory perceptions, whether it's telekinesis, psychokinesis, you know, energy healing, you know, mediumship, channeling, psychic abilities. I just bounce around all of them. I teach all of them. And you can do all of the above. There's nothing I haven't seen in my natural born life. So I understand that. And it's not like, well, what are your gifts today? I don't know. No, you just, you cultivate them. But you got to get a good base to cultivate. But once you get past the base and you identify yourself, identify. Once you stop identifying, which is the biggest misconception, misdirection, fallacy, then you get down with the get down. Because when you want to affect change, it's the present moment. It has nothing to do with anyone. I'm not Sun Qing. I'm not Jade. I'm not the camera. I'm not the floor. I'm not anything. It's instantaneous. But what makes it validated is that pulpability that you can acquire from the internal alchemy, and you know it's like, bam, done. Midas touch, boom, done.
And what's the difference? Because I think people almost mix the two, and maybe they are mixed a little bit, between imprinting something, an object, anything with your energy, and tapping into the energy of that thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the way you go in, right? So if I'm imprinting, all I have to do, I don't have to know who it is, when it is, what it is. Someone will come to me and go, "Oh, Grandma's going to die." I just spoke on this like a week or two ago. This very thing took place. I spoke on it with the podcast with Tom. And what happens is, in this situation, you're the universe. You think it's done. What? But you have to actually, this has to be tangible, Willis. Mm-hmm. This is not like, "Oh, I think that would be a great idea, and I'm thinking," no, that's it. The first mistake and a red flag for anyone that's watching someone, either they're channeling or they're doing something of this nature where they're supposed to be accessing high consciousness, they ain't thinking. And so when you see channelers and they get into this sort of state where they're like, "Oh, I think I can see that there's a point where someone's struggling with the information coming in and just allowing themselves to read it." What I will see, you'll hear me do this a lot. I'll read someone's energy and say, "I see this, this, and this." And it's pretty profound. And what happens with most people, their jaw drops and goes, "What the hell?" Mm-hmm. Because you can see it in their field. I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm not looking for you to give me approval that I've read your energy. The information is there. And by not being attached, not putting in the personality, it's instantaneous, right? Instant.
So if someone has a plant, mm-hmm. and they want to feel the energy of that plant, then they want to imprint energy into that plant. Mm-hmm. What would the best way to do it?
Well, you see, and this is the other compelling part. This guy starts talking about the geometry, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you construct the magic and you know what level of ascension you're in, because you cannot manipulate it with your eyes open if you see it the way I see it, or you're seeing it in your third eye. There is a fundamental register that comes in all forms, but it's these metal elements that are undeniable, and they will be present to you. I'm not going to speak on it. It's for you to experience. I teach people this, and when you acquire it, there's no manipulation. It's instantaneous. And when I teach people, it's like, it's experiential, right? The empirical evidence of what we speak of is that in of itself. Mm-hmm. And so you cannot deny a first-hand experience. And so I always show someone, and then I ask them to describe it to me. And that way they're like, "Oh, crap, wow, oh." And when before you even said it, I could feel it. This could relate to our dear friend Dean Radin, a precognitive experience. Mm-hmm. Moreover, this is like my transmission that is superseding your ground control, and it's coming in the form of a knowing, which is the feeling, the kinetic response. And so this is how these things are fundamentally created. Now, you spoke on a plant. You can take the geometry, shapes, and every single shape is sacred. Don't dismiss one over the other. They all have their purpose. Mm-hmm. They're all supercharged. But, fundamentally, there are enough people in this lifetime that have cultivated certain practices around certain shapes that would give them more merit depending upon what you're resonating with from your own DNA strand. But let's just say that for all intents and purposes, we're speaking on a sphere. And then we take that to a whole nother level, because when you create that sphere and you imprint it into a place, person, or thing, you can change the very structure of their DNA, and it will be evident under a microscope. It will be evident under, I like to show people with their physical bodies. Like, you feel the texture of your hands, right? However that may be. And I can just draw in and you're now experiencing something on a whole different level, and you're like, how is it possible that I'm experiencing this experience on the other end of a camera and a video that the Chafu made hours ago, and it's palpable to me. And so this is realized. Now, if you want to go back and experience that, realize that you experience like that glovey sort of like, I've got a mitt on my hands from me transmitting and infusing it into your physical DNA, your physical flesh, is what I speak of. Now, that's a condensed concentration of energy that we speak of. Now, what you should be mindful of is to realize, feel your hand texture before and then feel it after, and you'll be quite compelling the shocking nature of the difference, because it's about saturating the yin resonance within that flesh and blood, bypassing or dissolving this duality aspect. We are now working past that, and that's only possible if you're operating from a higher level of ascension, a higher dimension. It cannot replicate without that access point.
Right. And that gives you the ability to watch it in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
That and we get back to that sensory perception, and that advancing that to this point in this 5D where, like you said, your senses are infinite. So you're not only just seeing it and feeling it and experiencing it, it's vibrating. There's energy, it's palpable, the entire, spectrum of it.
And that spectrum is critical because it starts with, the basic colors. And within Taoism, we have 81 different colors. And that's within the construct of just our training system, which is Taoist rites. And that training system, you get 81 colors, 81 frequencies, which evoke the resonance, which make it a whole new playing field. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies.
I felt that even when you just said, even when you just were talking about it, I felt that.
Yeah, and I mean, because now not only my intention, my breath is now activated from the Qigong. It's where I move energy with my mind, I move energy with my breath. So you're experiencing that. And so more often than not, I speak of the amber of a cigarette. And that's exactly what you experience, is my voice has this pulsating sort of like effect where you're feeling this resonant pressure or energy that's moving through you. Or as I speak, it's sort of like this pulsating thing that's going on. You can't explain it, but it's connected to your field, connected to your subtle body, your energy body, your light body, whatever you want to call it. And it's present in my very expression.
Yeah, ooh, makes you feel good inside.
Right, because this is what we're talking about, tuning. We're tuning and taking it to the next level. So each dantian has this 81 layers, and you keep going in and in and in. And every time you shift another level, it becomes even more palpable. And so for me, doing this for decades, like I have these 3 massive energy centers that are just palpable, and I can access them and separate the electric from magnetic, put them together, do whatever I want to do with it, and it transmutes into this reality. And it is palpable, ladies and gentlemen. And that's part of the Qigong. And so that was the other compelling component that this guy was talking about. And then understanding that once you get to these energy centers and you activate them, and you use the shapes which he speaks on and has been for over 50 years, these shapes will fundamentally change your very existence, change your immunity, change anything. You don't have to be a believer. Just being in the presence of them will activate it. Now, I would say the only prerequisite to that is because I see a lot of, I see a lot of people at healing conventions and stuff. They're sitting in triangles and they're doing all this stuff. That's fundamentally going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. There's no question. Now, to superjuice that is to create the alchemy inside that you can reference it at will and feel all the different subtleties, from something very subtle to something very dramatic, and that comes from the alchemy. And so that you don't have to have a belief system to create the alchemy, but you do have to have a training system to create the alchemy. And you need to understand how that's evoked. And realize that once you evoke that, now you're just like, you know, anything is possible. And the pulpability of that is second to none. Always understand this. Know this to be true, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies. When you ascend, the energy does not get lighter. What are you talking about, Willis? It doesn't. You will be able to just, with your attention, intention, separate. And, it's, you know, the magnetic fluidity that I speak of is just like you're swimming in this mercury liquid. And it's palpable. And you can concentrate. Imagine you're like the Terminator 1000, T-1000, right? And you can literally morph and move in any direction, this liquid fluidity. And you can make it big, small, concentrated, subtle, all within your attention, intention, and that interwoven tapestry, the mastery, the puppeteering of these, like, consciousness is part of your journey.
Interesting. Now, getting back to what you mentioned about shapes, how to activate these energy centers and enhance them, you want to bring in different shapes. Do you do that? Is that a visual thing? Is that an audible thing? Is that something that you want to feel?
First you cultivate. But again, I can actually do things where I imprint something. You don't have to be a participant.
Okay.
And it will have an effect on you. This is why I always talk to you about the simple things like get the 2 rice jars, put your intention into it, happy, sad, and watch the difference of what it does to the properties of that essence within this 3D reality. And so you don't have to be a participant to have the effects. So I can construct the magic within a space that will have a rippling effect on you. So you can project something and you do it. You know, if you're in a public space, you can change the very nature and the thought processes and the emotional state of somebody just by projecting it. And so you can do this at will. I've asked you to do other exercises where you go and observe, and then you start regulating your breath with your very action, and you can start puppeteering people from a distance. That's all energy, baby. That's it. So this is no exception. So you can not be a participant. But when you're a participant, the effect is profound either way. But your mastery to be able to craft and create things would be even more profound than just being a recipient. Does this make sense?
Yeah, you're doing your own cultivation. And it's kind of like that sensory perception. What's it called when you can like see someone out of the corner of your eye?
Right, peripheral.
Peripheral, where it's like you're not really focusing on them or looking at them, but you can feel someone staring at you.
Right,
you can feel their attention of their eyes staring at you, and then you look and you make eye contact, or like I'm not seeing them do it, but I'm feeling them do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I was listening to some other guy who went into a light deprivation sort of like camp for like 5 days, and then he had all these weird things happen to him, and he likened it to even more powerful than any of his, external alchemy practices using like ayahuasca, psilocybin, whatever it is, mushrooms. So, he described this thing where all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's no light, and all of a sudden the light is very apparent. Like, even though your eyes are closed or open, there's so much light. It's like, it's like this light, but at 100% magnetizing. Well, that's happening to me right now. Mm-hmm. So if I turn my eyes to the left or the right, the framework of everything is bright white light. So it's as if I'm attempting to turn around with my eyes, but it's like a high beam of white light that's being projected towards me, and it frames out the periphery. And this is what Jade speaks of. When we talk about periphery, we talk about, you're being programmed by other people all day long into your unconscious. Mm-hmm. It's now your turn to merge the two, conscious and unconscious, creating the oneness, which is what we talk about, the mother of all things, the Tao. And by doing that, you merge both parts of the conscious and unconscious process, creating it as one, so you are 100% conscious, being able to affect change instantaneously. And that would come in the form of a gamma brainwave. Right.
And I mean, adding that with activating your energy centers as well, and you're just rocket.
Booyah. So, yes, in closing, you're looking at this stuff. And it all comes down to the framework and understanding.
And everything is energy.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a living being. It doesn't have to be, something that's moving, an inanimate object, a car, a building, a street. Mm-hmm. It's all energy.
Right. And that's the big thing, is everything is energy, frequency, vibration.
Mm-hmm. Have you watched those videos on like Instagram where they have like the person will be like and I don't know if they're real or not. I mean, I know they could be real, whether they're filmed real. The person will like go to the forest and they'll be like, "Hello, fern," and the fern will like shake and nothing else around it will move, like no wind or anything, but the actual plant will like wave or look like it's waving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is what really takes place.
Yeah. And I mean, again, whether they filmed it as real or not, it is real. Like it's 100% possible.
Yeah. And the reality is anything's possible if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
As we'll show you.
As we will show you. So in closing, if you have any more thoughts, feelings, or emotions you want to add to this episode.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things to just realize, getting your baseline, getting your starting point, so then you can start kind of having fun. I mean, I think of it as fun. I think of everything as a game of like you said, even doing the rice or getting two plants and yelling at one of them and telling one of them how much you love it and watching what happens and just getting these little validations for yourself that you are doing this right now. You're transmitting right now. You are imprinting right now, even without you consciously knowing it.
100%. And so, I was thinking about, that evidentiary experience. And so, you take that and you form it. And so by using the seed of my connection with the energetics, you start to form that. And so you're in tune with it. And so as I'm speaking, you can feel it with your eyes open or closed. There is this resonance that is present. And so when I just draw this triangle right now, you're experiencing the very resonance that I'm talking about. And when I go back the other direction, you're feeling the palpability of that. And you're like, how is that possible? And then if I inhale that, you're welcome. And so this is what we speak of, the density. And that right there is dense. Now, if you're at home or you're jade, you can actually take your hands as tuning forks from that imprinting of that particular shape and palpate it.
Mm-hmm. I feel it on my
Right?
forehead
You can
right now.
palpate it right now. It's dense as anything. This is part of the magic, my friends. The deep understanding of the magic.
Yeah.
Right? There we go. Right? And you start to feel that density.
And it gets stronger.
Oh, it gets stronger. And then so now turn your hands as tuning forks and lean them towards the very object that I created, that I imprinted, that you felt and experienced as I put it in. And start to feel all the subtleties and the variables of that energy. So if you move your fingers towards that, because everything has a center point, everything has an energetic body. So as you move your hands towards it, you're starting to feel that pulsating resonance. And it's coming in all forms, as if the tips of your fingers are white hot.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Now, while you're doing that, I'm now going to circulate wind around this space, which will connect with you and connect with Jade and connect with me. And I'll do it right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and spin. Now, what did you know? Did you feel that?
Yeah.
It's like my moving my eyes moved the energy, and you could feel it through the camera, through your fingers. Right.
Oh, that's so weird.
Right. Yeah. I know.
I can feel it in my neck.
Right. Well, it's coming through. Now, if you take one hand just to give yourself a little, and then you move it right to the center and start moving towards it. That's right.
And there's such a difference between palpating it and putting your hand in the middle of it.
Now, guys, here's another one. I'm now going to just bring in the spirit and energy of Lao Tzu. Now, feel the magnitude and rippling effects of that. And I don't even have to move my arms.
Yeah.
And so he's now in the center point in front of you where the camera is, and he is very present. Now, if you just move your hands up and down, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then palpate his aura. Now point your fingers towards the center of his energy body.
Good luck.
Right? Holy moly. And it bakes on. It's as if the more you reach towards it, the thicker. It's like accumulation of like a substance that seems like mud dripping.
Like oil.
It's
so
just
thick.
so dense. And then just release. And the after effects of that presence is this it's like a vapor sort of after effect that takes place where the presence has been imprinted into the very space you're in, the 0 point energy. And it's sort of like as with the wind, the chi, what's happened is the chi, the life force is just formed around the very object, the very person. Mm-hmm. It starts to shape it. That's what it does. It comes into it and shapes it. So if it's in the form of Lao Tzu, it shapes the form of Lao Tzu. And then even when his spirit has left, the residual effect is just floating there in the air.
Yeah.
Right? And you just feel it. It's like, holy moly.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still feeling it. I start feeling it in different parts of my body now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was a point when I was putting my hand in the middle, and it was like I literally could feel the vibration on my neck. Yeah. Like as if I had like a a massage thing, you know, a gun or something like
well, it's so dense, it's so
Yeah.
palpable.
yeah.
And that's with your eyes open, ladies and gentlemen. So in closing, experiencing that, you need to be able to experience it in all states, all dimensions, all senses, because it's not real until you say it's real. And that's what we do here. We are the OGs. We level up. So in closing, I want to thank you.
Thank you. Whew. Buzzing.
Wow. And I want to thank you, the audience, for sharing your time with us today. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sun Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.